And they have yet to take any responsibility for effing up.
Yeah, so here's one more thing that it tells me. That Jill Biden is a really bad person.
In this video, Ana Kasparian of the Young Turks reports on the Democrat lies about Joe Biden's cognitive decline while in office. Ana Kasparian is especially angry in this clip and points out the Democrats' pattern of lying and gaslighting. With that, let's watch Ana Kasparian continue her campaign to wake people up to the Democrat Party's inability to tell the truth.
Democrats in positions of power, administration officials, those close to Biden. No, media figures who identify as Democrats. No, I'm not surprised because their modus operandi from the very beginning was gaslight, 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 gaslight about everything. Gaslight about immigration, gaslight about crime, gaslight about Biden's age, gaslight about everything because we think the voters are stupid and that they don't recognize reality. I can't stand these people. All of them should never work in politics again, but unfortunately they will. They will.
Yeah, so TYT got this quote from Ron Klain to try to explain it because he says that Biden shouldn't have dropped out. Well, wait, if you believe that, how could you believe that he wouldn't drop out? But he's told TYT, my concern was not with his mental acuity, which was sharp, but with his focus on Ukraine and Israel, which had pulled him out of domestic politics. I did not doubt his ability to run for president, only his focus on these foreign policy matters that were derailing his domestic agenda.
Okay, well, Ron Klain was wrong. If that's what he actually meant, he's wrong.
Yeah.
Really, he's sharp, Biden's sharp. Okay.
So look, the reason why I say that doesn't make sense, and look, Klain's an interesting character because he was the one guy who was open-minded and actually listened to progressives and brought them into the White House, et cetera. So there's positive things about Ron Klain, and it was always willing to talk to others, which almost never happens in the establishment. So he has that going for him. But even in these, but if you notice, he didn't deny anything in the quote he gave to TYT, right? And so if these are true, that Biden didn't really understand what his argument was on inflation. I mean, that was the number one issue, right? And had nothing to say about a second term other than, oh, I'll finish the job. Like these are bare minimum, could not finish a debate prep for 25 minutes. So any rational person would have looked at that and said, no, we can't go to the camp. We can't do this debate. We can't go in this campaign. This person cannot win. It's not possible. If you don't know why you should get a second term, you don't know how to address the number one issue in the country, and you're not sure if you're the president of America or NATO, you should not run for president. That's the most obvious thing in the whole wide world. But
this is funny because everything that Ana Kasparian and Cenk Uygur are saying sounds like the transcript from a video I did during the election or prior to it. It's everything that we already know about Democrats. It's so funny. Either TYT has always known this stuff or they were intentionally turning a blind eye to run cover for the Democrats. And now they're trying to save face and gain favor with both sides or something, because Anna's right. The Democrat Party thinks you, thinks me, thinks everybody in the American public are complete morons. And she's right that they gaslight. But what blows my mind about the Democrats, and I usually say both parties do this or that, but in this situation, I really feel like this is a Democrat phenomenon. If you hear something with your ears, see something with your eyes, touch something with your hands, and know it to be objectively true, the Democrats think the American people are so dumb that they can say, that's not what you saw. That's not what you felt. That's not what you heard. And I'm embarrassed to say this for my fellow Americans. Obviously, some people fall for it. But don't you think like one instance of one of the two parties in this country telling you, no, you didn't see that, and then it just being proven that they're completely lying to your face, wouldn't that be enough for a lot of people to be like, yeah, I'm not voting for them anymore? Because it happens over and over. But I will give Democrat voters some credit because their ability to cope and to do mental gymnastics to convince themselves that their party isn't just run by liars, cowards, thieves, and pure evil is pretty impressive. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
But when you are in a bubble and you got the MAGA bubble, you got this bubble, that bubble, but the thickest bubble of all is inside Washington. And so serving power is such a gigantic pull for all of these people and being in power that they're like, nope, totally fine. He can't even say a sentence. He can't say a sentence. and we should run him for president.
Whipple describes 2 mock debates. Klain called off the first after 45 minutes because Biden's voice was a wreck, and he could not explain his own agenda for the second term should he win. And Biden himself called off the second mock debate after 25 minutes, saying, "I'm just too tired to continue, and I'm afraid of losing my voice here, and I feel bad. I just need some sleep. I'll be fine tomorrow." And then there's this stunning anecdote. Let's get to that. At one point, Biden had an idea. If he looked perplexed when Trump talked, voters would understand that Trump was an idiot. Klain replied, "Sir, when you look perplexed, people just think you're perplexed, and this is our problem in the race." According to Whipple, Klain feared that the actual debate would be a disaster, and his fears came true. It absolutely was a disaster. But here's the twist. Even after the debate, Klain wanted Biden to stay in the race. Whipple said that Klain emphasized to him that he believed Biden should have run for re-election and thought he could win and govern effectively for another 4 years, a sentiment consistent with his fierce defense of Biden in the weeks after the June debate. Klain is very nice for being willing to have conversations and just talk to people and communicate with people when other administration officials were unwilling to. So I give him credit for that. That said, how do you go through these situations? How do you see his performance during the actual debate and still defend his decision to run for re-election? Remember, there was a full month after that debate in which Biden hadn't dropped out. That month was robbed from Democratic voters, from the American people, because there could have been a short primary to pick a better Democratic nominee, no?
Yeah.
I'm too angry about this at this point, and I'm sick of rehashing it.
If you like watching videos like this one, like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
They effed up, and they have yet to take any responsibility for effing up.
Yeah, so here's one more thing that it tells me. That Jill Biden is a really bad person.
Yes, okay, sure. But Cenk, it's not just Jill Biden, obviously.
No, here's why I say Jill Biden, right? Because look, in a best case scenario, these bubbles are they warp a person's mind so much that a perfectly intelligent guy like Ron Klain sees a guy falling apart at the seams, can't talk, doesn't know anything, can't possibly enter a debate and thinks we can win with him. And he could be president for 4 years. Your best case scenario is mind unbelievably warped by that bubble, right? Bad case scenario for other people, et cetera, that might be involved is, I don't really care, I wanna stay in power. If Biden's in power, I'm in power, and I don't care that he can't think or he can't talk, right? Okay. We'll just wheel him out, right? But those are all for the advisors. Jill Biden is not just an advisor, she's his wife.
Oh my God, I mean, I can't imagine seeing my husband in that condition and still egging him on, urging him to run.
That's
I can't imagine it. I can't imagine it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, guys, look, the whole thing's over. The Bidens are never coming back. So this isn't some sort of like vendetta or personal, who cares, right? If I never see Jill Biden or I never talk about Jill Biden again, it'll be.
Yeah, I think Jill Biden doesn't get enough acknowledgement of how evil she is. Think about that. Anybody who's married watching this, when your spouse is having mental difficulties or just old age, they're just tired a lot, and a lot of activity is hard on them. It seems to me like in a loving relationship, you'd talk together and say, all right, is the job I'm doing, is it good for my health? Am I the best person for it still? We have plenty of money, so that's not it. But am I, can I do this? And I think a good wife would be honest with her husband and point out all the reasons that she believes maybe it's time to hang it up. But the reason I say Joe Biden is evil is because, like I just said, they have plenty of money. Her husband's the president of the United States. What motivation could she have to keep Joe Biden running? And it's one of two things that I always say are most important to Democrats. I already said money, so they had that. That wasn't it. Of course, they'll get more money if he's president again with all the shady stuff he had going on. But the ultimate reason, power. I think she really liked the power. And she was willing to make her husband look like a fool. She was willing to put his health at risk. Let's be honest. Being president again for another 4 years, even going on the campaign trail in the state that we all have known, if we've been honest, since the first time Joe Biden ran. Was he ever really in good enough shape that he should probably be taking on a campaign and another presidency? No. I think I'm I'm the furthest thing from a medical doctor, but just using common sense, I have to believe that's extremely unhealthy. Anyway, let's wrap it up.
Too soon, right? But I'm just stunned by how power hungry she was. That she saw a guy like that every single day. She lived with him every single day, can't remember anything, doesn't know what's going on. And she thought, I'm gonna wheel this guy out and have him humiliated in front of the whole country because I wanna hang on to power. That's sick.
You know, the one other thing I'm gonna bring up is, okay, so here you have Ron Klain saying, no, I think he could win. I think he could, be president for another 4 years. In other books that have come out recently, apparently administration officials were preparing for a situation in which Biden dies during his second term.
Yeah. Of course they knew.
They don't care about you. They don't care about the country. They don't care about Americans. This is the president of the United States. And they're not only playing with his life, they're playing with your life, okay? It's sick.
Yes, this Ron Klain guy, it sounds like to me that he wrote this book to profit off of Joe Biden's mental decline, while he was one of the people that was probably exacerbating it by encouraging him to keep moving forward. This guy wanted to stay in power just like every other one of Joe Biden's orbiters, because they all hold a certain amount of power too, if you're just in the administration, right? But then I think when all the liberal media started reporting on, well, in Ron Klain's book, he says that Biden was cognitively impaired. I think this guy's trying to have his cake and eat it too, because now he's come back saying, oh, no, I still thought he should have run. I just meant that he's too focused on Israel and Ukraine. What? You said exactly what you wanted to in the book, but you want the Democrat Party to still like you, because that's who you're aligned with, but you want to get the money out of the pockets of both parties. So he's trying to sit on the fence with this whole thing. He said exactly what he meant, but now he's trying to spin it like, oh, I didn't really mean it that way. Yes, you did. But what do you guys think? Are you surprised like I am that the mainstream liberal media and shows like TYT are so shocked that these people are admitting that Joe Biden was cognitively impaired? I'm a little shocked at their surprise. I just can't believe that they really thought back then that Joe Biden was good to go to run for president again. Let us know what you think in the comments. Anyway, as always, really appreciate you watching, and we will see you in the next one.